welcome back to Brashonomics. Wes Jones was with us a little bit ago, and he'll be back in a little bit, but we were talking about short sales. And a lot of people do have questions about short sales, but, of course, some people also want to continue to live the lifelong American dream of buying a house, and so you kind of get these two coexisting features of a life. Getting out of a house and then trying to get back into one. And the big piece of trying to get back into one is the financing. Of course, you could certainly go buy a house if you just had the cash, but you can't go out and get a mortgage right away if you short sell your house. Ryan Leopold with Cobalt Mortgage joins us. Hello, Ryan.
Ben, how you doing, buddy?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm good. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Every Monday we get to see a lot of each other. Well, let's get right into this because, you have people go through short sales, they go through foreclosures, they go through bankruptcies, and now all of a sudden people's memories are short. Now they would think that, I should buy a house now.
Sure.
And it could be pretty recent.
Yeah.
You run into that sometimes.
Yeah, and I think, with people going through short sales or foreclosures or bankruptcies, I think a lot of times a lot of people want to buy again, whether it's going to be in a couple of years or down the road. So I think understanding how the financing part works and getting somebody in a position to buy again is crucial. And if you can understand what you can do, first of all, understand your options, as you go through the process, and understand kind of how these decisions I make when it comes to my home and my finances are going to affect my ability to do things in the future. I think that's a huge first step. And then once you decide that, maybe you will have to go to foreclosure or short sale or bankruptcy, knowing ahead of time what can you do to start preparing yourself to buy again from the financial side of things can really have a huge impact on how long it takes and the efficiency of you being able to qualify for a mortgage again after you go through something that's a challenge like I said, a short sale or foreclosure or something like that.
So how long does it take?
Well, it depends. It actually is a very gray area because it depends on, what you went through. Did you go through a foreclosure, short sale, or bankruptcy? So there's different levels. Okay,
well, let's go through the level. You want to go through the levels? Yeah.
I think it's probably best.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I think first is going to be a short sale and deed in lieu are kind of looked at as the same thing. So deed in lieu is you don't go to short sale, you don't go to foreclosure. You're literally giving in a way, giving your keys back to the bank, and they're not actually going through the formal foreclosure process. So from the eyes of a lender of doing financing again, they're kind of looked at the same thing, short sale and deed of lieu. So if you're trying to buy again through FHA, most of the time if you want to do a low down payment program, you need at least 3 years, okay, to do an FHA mortgage. On VA, you need at least 2 years to qualify for a VA financing again. And for conventional, it's going to be 2 to 7 years, depending on your circumstances and how much money you have saved up to use the down payment and how you've rebuilt your credit during that period of time. So that's probably the easiest way to describe it from a short sale standpoint. And
then what are some of the others? You have this time frame, essentially.
Yeah.
And so what can people do during that time frame? You talked about, people rebuilding their credit because you still have to get that credit score to a certain number.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of before the fact of going through one of these situations and after. So I think before, if you're going to go and decide to go down the short sale route, and a lot of times, sometimes like some rules are changing, but like Wes talked about, most people have to be late on their mortgage. If you can make sure that everything else is on time, whether it be credit cards, car payments, student loans, if you can maintain high credit there, it's going to give you a higher probability of fixing your credit after you go through the short sale. So you're going to still have the time period you're dealing with, but part of that time period is not only the time you have to go through to qualify for these programs, but they're also going to require that your credit is fixed to a certain standard. So having open and active other lines of credit is actually a really good thing. And if you can keep those in high standings, that's a huge first step to get yourself in a position to qualify for a mortgage again.
Because we're kind of looking at this two-pronged deal, right? You have one point, which is you have a certain amount of time you have to wait, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But at the same time, just because the clock runs out, or the 2, 3, or 4 years, it doesn't mean you just get to buy again. There's other things, there's other factors that go into it.
Yeah, so like we talked about, credit is one of the most important ones. And the second piece is going to be if you want to limit that time period a little bit. And that's why I said it's pretty vague, or, depending on your situation, it could be 2 years on VA, 3 for FHA, 3 to 7 years on conforming traditional Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac stuff. But there's rules within that says if you've reestablished credit and or you're putting 10 to 20% down, those time frames can come down a little bit. And when I mean time frames coming down, we're saying, maybe 4 years down to 3 years or 3 years down to 2 years based on credit and down payment. So it's a combination of both. And I think if someone can have a plan in place before they go through the hardship and or after the property is closed, those are all going to have a huge impact.
So when somebody goes through, I guess, we talked about the options and making sure that they know what their options are for the future. And we're here with Ryan Leopold with Cobalt Mortgage. But when you start talking about the future, I mean, these are some of these fact-finding adventures that somebody needs to really go on to make a good decision. And, we talk a lot of times on the show about having a good team in place, people who can help advise you. And this seems to be maybe a part, maybe Wes can hit on this when he comes back in a little bit, but it seems to be a part. You get a lot of phone calls before the short sale, like what's it going to take for 2, 3, 4 years down the road?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And so do you think people then, I guess, are utilizing all the resources to make their decision? Kind of.
I think, a client doesn't know always to reach out to a lender because they're dealing with the immediate hardship position they're in. They're meeting, that they may lose their home. They may, the rest of their finances may be impacted if they have to go through a foreclosure. So a lot of times, a lot of their attention, which is understood, is going to that immediate event. So the second part of like, okay, I'm going through this and now I should be focusing on the rebuilding stage. I think that's something that not a lot of people focus on and or know who to turn to guide them in the right direction. So, both parts understood, but we do talk to a lot of clients who are thinking about going down this path and they want to know if I choose, this is the position of my house and we're just deciding if we're going to do a short sale, deed in lieu, foreclosure, bankruptcy. We just don't know yet, but we do want to buy again because we have a family and we want to make sure we have stability within our housing. What can we do to make sure that we put ourselves in a good position to buy again, and how long is it going to take?
Yeah,
and so we do have those consultations quite a bit.
Yeah, and it would be a good consultation to have because most people do want to get back in the game once they've even gone through a short sale. A lot of people still want to own a house and have that stability. So, thanks for joining us. Good stuff. Ryan Leopold with Cobalt Mortgage. We have to go to break. When we come back, everybody's coming back. We're going to talk a little bit more about the real estate market and what's going on with buyers and sellers and the real estate market as a whole. We'll be right back.